Good morning, everyone. I take it we'll give the rest a few minutes. So say at 10:05, and then we will start. Morning, everyone. I hope everyone is bright and ready to code. I hope you're all doing well in this festive season. Thumbs up. Thanks, Tumo. Thumbs up to you too. All right. But we're going to be productive during this festive season. So we're going to start by building something called a RAG system. But just before I dive into that, I just want to introduce myself. My name is Lawrence Mwansa. I work as an executive assistant at We Think Code in the office of the CEO. I am also a co-founder and CEO of an AI first consultancy company. So I'm very passionate about AI and what AI can do and bring for us. So I'll open the floor. I just have a quick question. I'll open the floor up before we dive into it. Does anybody know what a RAG system is? That's RAG. Any hands? Any takers? Anyone wants to take a chance? All right. I'll take it. It's still December shyness. So I'll explain to you what a RAG system is. But I'll first start by sharing my screen. Peter has no idea. Don't worry, Peter. We'll help you out. I'll start by sharing my screen right here. All right. Thumbs up. You guys can see it. Thanks, Jabu. Got a thumbs up from Jabu and a whole lot of other people. You guys are in a vibe today. We'll try and make this session as quick as possible, but explanation is this session is just going to be fully explanatory, and then tomorrow we'll dive into the code along session. But before we dive into the code along session, I will send out all the resources, the resource pack with all the content and information, as well as this notebook that you're seeing here. I'll share that with everyone, and maybe you can give it a tackle. If it does give you problems, feel free to join into tomorrow's code along session, and we can start. Oh, yeah, we can code, and then we can code along together. So essentially, a RAG system, basic non-technical explanation, a RAG system is a system that you give it a PDF, and then an AI model understands or trains on your PDF that you've given it. And then from there, you can infer or ask questions on that PDF. So what I have here is a FIFA regulation status on the status of transfer of players. Can you guys see this PDF? Thumbs up. Thumbs up. Got you. So this PDF is basically from FIFA. It's an 88-page PDF, and it has a lot of information on the status of transfer of players. So this is the PDF that I have loaded onto my RAG system, which I'll demo now, and I can infer and ask questions specifically on this PDF, specifically, emphasis on the word specifically. So back to our notebook over here. As you can see, it says enter your question here. So this is what you're going to build. You're going to be able to build it. You'll be able to understand it. And we'll be using meta technologies all the way. So the first, it asks me to enter my question. I'll ask it, what is this document about? We'll click enter, and then it's retrieving the answers. So it has generated some queries there. We'll discuss on this more, or what this is about. But the question is, what is the document about? And the answer it provides is this: the title is Regulation on the Status and Transfer of Players. It contains various documents or attachments, should we say. The documents cover topics like third-party influence, ownership of players, and so forth. So essentially, that's correct. I can even go deeper and say, give me the key points. Once I press enter, it runs.
No. Sorry to interrupt. I'm just looking at a what's this? I just see your PDF. I don't see what it is that you're doing currently.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Let me just make sure I'm sharing the right screen. Are you sure? Is everyone seeing the PDF alone, or do we have some people that are able to see the notebook? Ooh, Letabo. Dumo says he's able to see the notebook. Quite a few people gave thumbs up there. So
Okay,
I
sorry.
think
I
it
think
might.
maybe it's on my side. Now I can see that you've switched.
Okay, perfect. There might have
Maybe
been
my
a delay.
network is.
Yeah, there might have been a
Yeah.
delay
Sorry.
or a lag there.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Um, yes, the session is going to be recorded. Sorry, I'm just looking at the chats. The session will be recorded, and I'll attach a YouTube link to the resource pack so that you can go through the session on your own in case you get stuck. But essentially, the last question I gave it was, give me the key points. And these are the key points it has given me. The context contains regulation on the status of player transfers. There are various documents, so it's essentially the same thing. The regulations include third party. The English text is the English text of the regulation is authoritative and in case of discrepancies. Okay, so essentially that's what I have done. I've created this system whereby I can feed it any PDF and then the AI model will then learn off that PDF and then we can ask it specific questions. All right, what if we ask it a question about, um, let's say, tell, what does this document, what does this document say about the fastest car? Now, remember, it's a FIFA regulations document. It has nothing to do with cars or anything like that. When I press enter, let's see what it will do for us here. All right. What does this document say about the fastest car? There is no information about the fastest car in the provided context. The context discusses regulation. It mentions third party. The document also talks about official languages. There's no mention of cars or any related topic. So if you can see, the context is confined to what the document holds and what's in the document. So before we carry on, let's quickly chat about a RAG system. I'm just quickly going to tell you what a RAG system is now. So a RAG system stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. It's a way to make an AI chatbot or assistant using your own documents, which is very, very important. All right. Instead of just relying on what it remembers or the usual LLMs trained on large corps of data, this one is specific to that document. So try and think of it like this. It's a normal chatbot, like a very confident person answering from memory. So the RAG system chatbot is like a person who opens a folder, searches for the right page, reads it, and then answers you back. Okay, question one is why RAG systems exist. So LLMs don't know your data. Now, when we say LLMs, I'm speaking of models like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and the likes. So these models don't essentially know that your data. They don't know your company policies, your internal PDFs, your course notes, your product documentation, and whatnot. It doesn't have context of that. It doesn't know any of that. And this is all in breadth of the responsible use of AI. Secondly, large language models can hallucinate rather. Have you ever asked ChatGPT something and it went totally off course and started giving you relationship advice instead of code that you ask for? So these LLMs, they're very vulnerable to these things, hallucination, being biased, and the likes. Um, Also, training, fine-tuning, like for example, training and fine-tuning LLMs is very expensive and it's a slow process. It's quite a lengthy process and really slow. So the RAG system is cheaper as it focuses on a one specific context. So it narrows down all the way to your PDF. So what is a RAG system? In its core definition, a RAG system is an AI system that combines retrieval, finding the most relevant information from a set of documents, generation, which is using a large language model to write an answer based on the retrieved information. So if you're with me there, you can give me a thumbs up if you understand it. So that's the core definition. There's retrieval. Remember, it stands for retrieval augmented generation. So the two keywords to memorize there is retrieval and generation. Retrieval, simply finding information, scouring through pages, finding a page number, and then learning that information. And then generation, we're using these large language models to then answer us specifically on that information. So you decouple the knowledge base, meaning you're protecting yourself. It's a very irresponsible to upload important company documents up to ChatGPT and Claude and the likes and giving it sensitive information. That is the irresponsible use of AI. And in this new generation, using AI responsibly is essentially what we want to do. So what is a RAG system used for in a real world application? So basically, RAG system is used anytime you want to answer questions that are based on your documents, up to date and traceable, most important, traceable, where you can trace it back to the source and say that I got this information from this PDF. Some companies also use it for customer support. Some companies use it for internal knowledge assistance, like for example, HR would use it for leave policies to understand their leave policy better, their benefits, their onboarding. It's a lot to understand, around that. In the IT department, they can use it for documentation, troubleshooting, even setting up guides. I know one friend of mine who uploaded a manual, a really extensive manual, and he was able to ask it questions and he was able to get the specific page number to the answer that he wanted. So the main parts of a RAG system, number one would be your knowledge, which is your PDF or your document, okay? Number two would be a way to store and search for that knowledge by meaning. And number three would be an LLM that writes the final answer for you. So we're using LLM. So we're going to use, in our case, we're going to use Gemini to answer these questions for us. So how it works step by step is step one is ingestion. So it loads the document, and that's just by simply giving it a link to the PDF file or uploading that PDF file. Step two is a process called chunking. And essentially what it does is it splits them up into smaller pieces. So it splits your entire document. If your document is, say, 800 words, it will split it up into 200 words each, keeping the context the same. So why chunking matters is because smaller chunks are easier to match to a question. It also reduces the chances of the system getting extra or unnecessary information. And then most important, it keeps the large language model context as clean as possible. Step three would be embeddings. So this is when we turn our text into meaning vectors. This is the key idea that makes RAGs powerful. An embedding model converts text into lists of numbers, which are called a vector that represents its meaning. So similar meanings, vectors are close together. Different meanings means vectors are apart from each other. Hope you guys got that one. Step four is vector store. So this is where we save enablings from fast searching. A vector database or a vector store is like each chunk of text is enabled in a vector. So it gives us that sort of metadata around that specific chunk of text that it has split. And then it creates those vector numbers that help the model understand. You know, these models are trained largely on numbers and nodes. You'll hear things like that. Step 5 would be the query time. Now, the query time, this is when the user asks the question. This is where the fun part begins. This is where you start inferring on that document, whether it's your CV, for example. You're going to upload your CV, and then you start inferring and asking questions on that. Step 6 would be build a prompt with the retrieval text. So what it does is once you've asked it a question, it understands your question and then breaks your question down into several different approaches or several different angles. So it takes your question, reforms your question, keeping the question the same or the context of the question the same, but in asking it in different approaches, different angles. And that's where it gets its its diverse view on your document. Step 7, which is the final step, which this is when what we call generation. So this is when your large language model writes the answer to you. So you ask the question, processes, and then the large language model, in our case, Gemini, will then write the answer to us. So why we need RAG systems is because, number one, they are more accurate. They are more accurate for answers within a domain. Number two is that they are up to date and knowledgeable without retraining. So they are up to date and always knowledgeable. Provided that you've given it that PDF, it will always be up to date. It will answer you based on what the PDF has. Benefit number 3 would be it will better, it's more transparent. So it increases your trust in the AI. That way you curve things like hallucination and being biased, all those kind of things, you curve them. This is more accurate and more concise with very clear answers. Benefit 4 is that it is smaller. It's smaller. It's a cheaper model and can perform really, really well. Essentially, whenever you upload a document to ChatGPT, Gemini, or Claude, they're doing the exact same thing that we are going to build out today. So that's the 4th benefit. The 5th one is that it's safer. It behaves in a controlled environment. So it really reduces those crazy answers. And if it doesn't give you evidence on, for example, if ChatGPT doesn't give you evidence on where it found a specific article, a RAG system would be able to do that because it's simply inferring from your PDF. So in simple terms, that's a RAG system, and that's what we're going to build. So in this session, I'm just going to introduce the tools that will be needed, for us to build this system. Okay, I'll start off with what we have here. So right here, we have a notebook, and we are using Google Colab. Now, the reason why we're using Google Colab is that it provides a much more stable environment. So all this information will be in the resource pack. If you don't have a Google Colab account, it's free. I noticed most of you guys are using Gmail email addresses, and if you have that, it is essentially free, and you can quickly spin up an account and you'll be good to go. So all this information will be provided. You don't have to worry, you don't have to panic. Okay, I have some latency issues, so I am going to cut my video for now. Yes. So yes, we're going to need Google Colab, and essentially this is where we're going to do our development. Secondly, we need to get an API key that will allow us to access our model. Our model in this case is Gemini, as I mentioned before. And where do you get this API key? Well, you'll simply need to sign up to OpenRouter. The link will be shared. You'll sign up to OpenRouter, And then if you don't know, you'll come here by your profile, you click on keys, it'll bring up this page. I already have my MetaRag system key over here. And then for you who wants to create a new one, you'll simply click this big blue button and it will create a key for you. You name it, it will create a key. It's important that you save the key. It is of pivotal importance that you keep your keys safe. You don't share car keys, you don't share house keys with people. So please keep your keys safe. Don't give Cindy, don't give John next door your API key. Keep it safe, keep it with you, store it, record it, and make sure that you have it because your RAG system will not work without this. All right, so this one is optional. If you do have a GitHub account and you can create a GitHub repository and share the link with us at We Think Code so that we can have a look at your code, we'll be very happy. At the end of everything, there will be a submission form to complete. Would really appreciate that if you complete the submission form. There'll be a slot there so that you can insert the link to your public repo, and we can then access and then have a look at the code that you've written. All right. Thirdly is you're going to need to get a PDF. Now, my advice is don't get a PDF larger than 100 pages. The longer or the larger your PDF is, the longer it takes to train the model and split it up, meaning chunking, enabling, all of that. It takes quite a bit of time. So for the sake of time, I say I'd advise that get a really short PDF of your own. It could be your CV, perhaps. Save your CV in a Google Drives and then get that link. Just make sure that on the setting of your CV or your document that you have, on that setting, make sure that anybody with the link can access the document. So I'll repeat that. Anybody with the link should be able to access your document. If not, the RAG system won't really be able to download the document. So what happens is with the link, it will download into your Google Colab environment so that we have a much more stable environment with all the dependencies that will be needed. All right, great. And most importantly would be the Llama cookbook. Now, this is where I learned essentially how to make this RAG system. I'll just go to the home page, which is llama.com. I will share this in the resource pack. And from here, you can infer and get all your resources. So what I usually like doing is I'll come here to resources. You can click on cookbook. So now you guys know what a cookbook is. It's a book full of recipes and it can tell you how to make macaroni, spaghetti, a burger, I'm guessing, whatever you like. In this case, this is the Llama cookbook. This is how we are able to stitch pieces of the Llama technology and then help us build this RAG system. So all the information that you need is right here. I'm not going to go through it in detail, but otherwise, what I would like you to look at is this one, essentially. Build multimodal RAG using Llama. So if I click on this, okay. Now, just to give context, what multimodal means, it means that it's an AI that can process text, it can process images, it can process videos, it can process audios. Multimodal is essentially meaning that you have many different modes that you can come through. In this case, we have a multimodal using an image input and a text input. Let's negate the image input. We don't need to use it for now. Our flow is more of the text. And as you can see, we have a text input. We give it to a Llama model. It goes through some embeddings. It then creates those vectors and stores them in a database. The RAG system is then spun up, and then we generate that response that we want out there. So essentially, this is where you'll get all that information. Other than that, one of my favorites is coming through to the videos. There's a lot of free content and useful information here. I think my internet is acting up, but there's a lot of useful information that you can get here. So we have, like for example, structured extraction of data from images. You can watch this video, and using these open source tools that Meta has provided, you'll be able to to extract that data that you want from images. There's building a WhatsApp chatbot. If you've ever had someone say, "Can you build me a WhatsApp chatbot?" I mean, this is a really good approach to follow using the Meta technologies. Most of them are open source. The only thing that you will need is that API key. It's really important, that API key. So how to quickly generate technical blogs from your docs with Llama and RAG. So this is essentially an extension to what we are doing. We're building the RAG system, but here it's technical blogs from your docs with Llama and RAG. More or less the same. I think about 95% of the work in here is the same of the work that we're going to be doing. And then you have all the other contents. Please, all this will be shared in the resource pack. Go through it and attempt it. So I'll just navigate back to our notebook over here. Now, I just want to highlight that in our notebook, most of the answers will be provided in our notebook. You'll just have to read carefully, and it will ask for snippets of code. And the right snippets of code are provided in the notebook. All you would have to do is simply place them in the correct place. And since you guys are developers, well, adversed developers, and you are these AI developers, this new frontier of AI developers, you'll then just simply have to figure out exactly where does this chunk of code give us. So once you're done with that, you'll be able to run the system, and you'll be able to then have a fully fledged working RAG system. So the steps are very clear. The steps are concise. The code blocks are there, and it's only 6 specific steps. Once you get these 6 specific steps done, you can upload or rather push your notebook to GitHub and then share that link with us. So once you receive the notebook in your resource package, to get it here, to get it onto your Google Colab, you'll simply open a Google Colab, an empty Google Colab project. You click on File, you scroll down to Upload Notebook. When you click on Upload Notebook, you can simply drag and drop the notebook file onto here, and then click OK, and then that will bring you to this environment. So today's session wasn't essentially long. It was just to give you a basic understanding on what we will be doing tomorrow. But you will have all this information before the end of the day. You will have the resource packs before the end of the day. If you are feeling confident on giving it a try, which I think you should give it a try, you'll be able to really get through it and give us that submission. And yeah, so that's what we are looking for, and that's what we are working towards. Yes, so I've used about 29 minutes of your time. If there's any questions, please feel free to unmute and ask away, or raise your hand, and then we can then do it more orderly. Okay, while I wait, I'll then turn to the questions in the chat. So how are we handling PDFs that are made mainly of pictures and few text? How do we process them? That's a good question. Because we are using text alone, essentially what it does is what can I put this? It overlooks your images and focuses on the text. A multimodal model is the one that you will then use to process both the image and the text. So right now, the model that we're using is basically focused on text. I hope that answers your question. I'm a novice, but studying a BA degree in AI online. Okay, good for you, Peter. Love that. Hey, are we getting resource pack via email? That's correct, Linda. You will get your resource packs via email probably before 1 p.m. if I'm not mistaken. If not by 12, you should have all the resource pack information. All right, Tumo has another question. If it's irresponsible to dump your data into an LLM, how is that different from building a RAG? Connecting it to an LLM and sending your information through a prompt? Are you not dumping the company's information through a prompt? So essentially, no, you're not. Like I mentioned before, when you look at a large language model like ChatGPT, all of that, all the processes behind when you upload it are coupled. In this instance, you've coupled the generative AI or decoupled the generative AI as well as your information source, which keeps it safe. So when it comes to other large language models, when you feed it these PDFs, it has a memory. And this memory is then, it captures all your information. And believe it or not, your data is stored and it lives somewhere on the internet. So it can be important documents for your company. If you upload that onto ChatGPT, it gets uploaded to ChatGPT servers, and everybody essentially has access, or they rather have access, and it's easy for malicious use because it's living on the internet. In this case, your PDF is staying on your local storage, and there's a bridge. There's a bridge between it and the generative AI. And you'll see that as you approach, especially when it comes to vectors and things like that, you'll see that approach and understand it more, that there's a specific bridge. And just to top it off, the generative AI itself does not even remember the content that you've uploaded. So those are the two key differences. While ChatGPT has a memory and remembers all the information, your RAG system does not essentially have that memory. It uses your PDF as a data source. Okay. Okay. So the YouTube link will be shared. You will have access in the resource pack. The recording of this session will be there. So you'll be able to then follow and then see what we have managed to cover through this session. Any other questions, guys?
Hi, please correct me if I'm wrong, but these sessions, it's for a week, right?
No. So this session
How
is
long is it?
simply, we only have 2 sessions to build the system. So the first session is today, which is the introduction session, just to introduce to you
Mm-hmm.
guys what you'll be building. And then in tomorrow's session is the build along session. This is whereby myself and you, Letabo, will pair together, and then we call it code pairing. So we'll
Okay.
code pair, and then we'll do a code along. So as I code, then you can follow along, and then we see if we're getting the same outputs and the same results, just to make sure that we are building the same RAG system, if you get me. So we have 2 sessions. Today's session was
Mm-hmm.
just an introduction. Tomorrow is a build
Okay.
along. But once you receive the resource package, do try and attempt it on your own, and let's see
Mm-hmm.
how that goes. If you're able to submit, you're able to submit. That will be great. We'll highlight that in tomorrow's session. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Okay. Yeah, it does. Thank you.
All right. Is there any other question? Any other question from anybody? Going once, going twice. Oh, I see a question here. Oh, so we'll be using the Llama 3.3 70B instruct model. That's the one that we'll be using to do the enablings. So it'll be the Llama 3.370B instruct model. And once you get access to the notebook, you'll be able to see all of that and get all that information on which model you are using and how it's interacting. Will you get the recording? That's correct. Okay. Okay, if there's no more question, then I think we can adjourn our session. And then I'm looking forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. It'll be a quick session as well, probably an hour at most. But yeah, and then we can build this system together and get it working. I'm very keen and interested to hearing which PDFs or what PDFs you guys uploaded and what questions or queries did you ask it, and what was the responses? Thank you for showing up. We love you from We Think Code and look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. Bye, everyone.